welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Jessie, and my husband and I are on a journey to pay off all of our credit card debts by the end of 2021. To do that, we have been hardcore budgeting using my planner here. We've taken inspiration from lots of different areas in the budgeting community to kind of figure out our budgeting style and what works for us. We've taken inspiration from Dave Ramsey with his baby steps. We've taken big inspiration from the Budget Mom. We use the Budget by Paycheck workbook pages to do most of our budgeting. We've also taken tons of inspiration from other budgeting YouTube channels. So we have, over the course of the last year, little over a year, been really trying to get our debt paid down. We've really kind of gotten into a groove and figured out what works for us. And here on my channel, I like to share our journey, what works for us, what doesn't, our highs, our lows, as we take this trek on this budgeting journey. So if that's the sort of video that you are interested in, you're definitely going to want to click the subscribe button. So welcome to our first budget of April. This is the paycheck that my husband will receive on April 6th. This is his first payday in April. As you can see here, he did have a payday here, but this was actually considered March income. We don't budget by month, we budget by paycheck. So my husband gets paid every single week on Tuesday, so our budgets typically go from Tuesday to Monday, and we just take a look at that one little period of time. So our first budget of April doesn't start until my husband gets his first paycheck of April, which is April 6th. So our April budget will technically go from April 6th until May 4th. That will be our April budget. So we're not worried about any of these upcoming weeks though. The only week we are focusing on is the 6th through the 12th. So as you can see here on this calendar page, this page is from a Erin Condren monthly planner, which I uncoiled and punched the pages to put here in my Happy Planner disc bound system, where I keep all of my budgeting and lifestyle planning pages. You can see that I already have some stickers down here in this calendar. I use a color coding system to keep track of all of my transactions. Every single penny that I spend in a week is broken down into various categories, and I track my spending here on this calendar using those various categories. You can see that I have some blue stickers here. Blue is for bills. So these are all of the bills that are due this week. That is what we are going to focus on first, the bills section of our paycheck bill tracker here. So we're going to go ahead and flip to this paycheck bill tracker. This is the paycheck for April 6th. My husband is our primary income source. I am a stay-at-home wife and mom. I do make a little bit of income here on my YouTube channel. That is how I kind of help out with this budgeting journey financially, but we are primarily a one-income family. We don't talk about my husband's income. He would prefer that I not disclose that, so I don't. But this is his paycheck number 1, so I'll go ahead and write that in. And we'll go ahead and start writing in bills. So what I put under this bills category is all of those bills we just talked about on my calendar page. And in addition to that, I also put my grocery budget. And that is because I use the Walmart pickup service for groceries. And so I pay for our groceries with my checking account. We do a lot of our budget in cash. We pull out a lot of cash for our cash envelopes. the money that we spend throughout the week. We also do our sinking funds in cash, but not everything can be done in cash, and groceries for us is one of those things. So it wouldn't really make sense for me to pull out grocery money in cash just to have to turn around and deposit it back in the bank to cover the transaction. I do, by the way, have a link in the description box below where you can get $10 off your first order of $50 or more with the Walmart grocery pickup. So take advantage of that if you've never tried out the Walmart pickup. It is a great service. It's super easy. You don't have to shop in store. They will bring your groceries out, load them right into your car. And by shopping via the app and going in and knowing exactly what I'm going to be able to get, exactly how much everything costs, you can kind of watch the total grow as you add things to your cart, and then when you hit your grocery budget, you can stop. It's a great, great way to help keep track of your grocery spending and not go over budget. So for this week, I am going to budget $200 for groceries. Typically for my family of 4, I budget $150. We live in Southeast Michigan. I have myself, my husband, and 2 teenage boys that I'm having to feed. So $150 usually does it, but we're out of quite a bit of stuff. I need to restock our freezer with some things. We are all out of fresh produce, so I'm anticipating a heftier grocery bill this week, and so I bumped that budget up to $200. So that's it for grocery, and now I'm going to write in those bills we talked about. So for this week, first and foremost, I have my Weight Watchers bill here. I am lucky enough that one of you all clicked on the link that I have in the description box, and you all, whoever it was that signed up, got a free month of Weight Watchers, and in return I also got a free month of Weight Watchers. So I don't have to budget anything for this. This bill has been taken care of for April, but I still like to write it in because typically this is something I would have to pay, and I don't want to get out of the habit of checking to see if I have to make that payment. So for Weight Watchers this month, it's going to cost us nothing, which is wonderful. Other bills that we have during this week, we have my camper and Boost due on the 10th. So those are bills that are going to have to get paid with this income. My camper payment, we are going to budget $200 for. And Boost, which is our mobile phone provider, we're going to budget $130. That is what I pay every single month for unlimited talk, text, and data for our family of 4. It's a family plan, $130. So that takes care of that. Then we have HBO Max and Netflix due on the 11th. For HBO Max, we are going to budget $16. I think it's $15 and change for our HBO Max subscription. I always like to round my numbers up so that I don't have to worry about, overspending. We have a little bit of wiggle room in our budget that way by rounding up. For Netflix, we're going to budget $14. What else did we have here? Lastly, we have Disney Plus and Hulu. So we're getting all of our subscription services paid for this week, which is exciting. For Disney Plus, we're going to budget $7, and for Hulu, we're going to budget $6. So that is everything in my bills category. I'm going to go ahead and pull in my calculator here, and we're going to add this up. So we have $200 for groceries, plus $200 for our camper, $130 for Boost, $16 for HBO Max, $14 for Netflix, $7 for Disney Plus, and $6 for Hulu. And so overall for this bills category, we are budgeting $573. All right, next up we have my cash envelopes. So, as I mentioned at the start of this video, we do a lot of our budgeting in cash. We have quite a few cash categories. The first one is my husband's spending money. My husband's name is Eric, and he gets $40 at the start of every week, and this is his money to do whatever he wants with it. You could consider this his allowance. We don't call it that, but I know a lot of people who do budgeting videos call it allowance or spending money. He gets $40 every single week for that. I don't expect him to tell me what he spends this money on. I don't expect him to give me change or receipts. I give him his $40 at the start of the week, and that's it. He can do what he wants with it. He can throw it out the window for all I care, as long as he doesn't come asking for more money. That's what I always say. Next up is my spending money, and I also get $40. By the way, he and I discussed this when we first started our budgeting journey. He's the one that came up with this $40 number. I know the way that I said that made it seem like I'm a tyrant and I refuse to give him any extra spending money. $40 is what he feels comfortable with. He chose that amount. So that is my husband's spending money, my spending money. Next up is my son, Robert. Robert is 18 and he does a ton of driving for us. He goes back and forth to my youngest son's school, drives him to school. He's constantly running errands and whatnot for us. So we give him $20 a week to help compensate him for the gas that he uses. In addition to that, he also ran to the store for me for something this week, and I didn't have cash on me to give to him, so he just made that purchase, and I'm going to reimburse him. That was $30, so I'm going to give him a total of $50 this week. Next up is my son, Austin. Austin is 13, and he gets $20 a week for his allowance. Next up, I have lawn care, so we have hired a company to come and cut our grass every single week for a total of $20 a week. So we're going to pull $20 out of the bank for that. Our next cash category is gas. We like to pay for our gas in cash. I drive a Subaru Forester. It costs me about $40 to fill up my tank from empty, and so I like to budget $40 a week. So that I can get a full tank of gas should I need it. So we're going to budget $40. We'll pull that out of the bank for my gas envelope. Next up, we have eating out. And in order for my family of 4 to go out and have a nice meal once a week, we budget $50. I know not everyone who is actively trying to pay down debt does eating out. I know a lot of you all go gazelle intense, as Dave Ramsey would say. For us, the way that I have figured out that works best to keep us on track and have us not go off the rails and be overspending is to budget money for things like eating out, having fun, continuing to live our lives. This debt-free journey has been a long process, and if we tried to not eat out at all while we were paying down debt, we would have gone crazy. So we like to build it into our budget. You do what's best for you. That's what I love about personal finance. It's personal. So we budgeted $50 for that. And lastly, I have miscellaneous, which is just sort of a cash buffer. I budget $25 every single week. And that is for anything that comes up throughout the week that I did not budget for. It also helps if we go a little bit over budget in any of these other cash categories to make it so that we are not, busting the budget. So I budget $25 for that. So that is all for my cash envelopes. So we'll go ahead and add this up as well. So 40 plus 40 plus 50 plus 20 plus 20 plus 40 plus 50 plus 25 is $285 for our cash envelope total. So that's it for cash envelopes. Next up, we're going to jump up here to our sinking funds. So if you're not familiar with sinking funds, these are little mini savings accounts essentially. We are setting aside a little bit of money every week for various things that we know are coming up. The example I always like to use for sinking funds is Christmas. Christmas comes once a year at the end of December. You know it's coming. So rather than waiting until, December 1st to scramble and find room in your budget to buy all of the Christmas gifts and things you need, instead of doing that, we just set aside a little bit of money throughout the year for Christmas, $20 here, $30 there. And then by the time December rolls around, we have that money set aside. We don't have to scramble for it, or worse, swipe a credit card. So we have over a dozen sinking funds, various things that we are saving for at any one given time. I don't add money to every one of my sinking funds every week because A, I don't have that much extra money in my budget. I don't have that much wiggle room in my budget. And B, just because that would be overwhelming. I like to keep things simple. So I choose a handful of sinking funds each week to add money to based on how much money we have. My husband is paid based on commission, so his paychecks are not consistent. They fluctuate week to week depending on how much he worked. So that plays a part in which sinking funds I choose to fund. Also just what our goals are, what we have coming up. So yeah. For sinking funds this week, we are adding money to quite a few of them. The first one is our campground fund. We have a camper and we like to keep it at a campsite that we pay for annually. The camper sits on that lot that we have there all year round. It's camping and amenities in the summer, spring and summer and fall too actually, and then it's winter storage as well. So that costs us about $1,400 a year rather than waiting until October when that's due and trying to scramble for that $1,400. We just set aside money here and there so that we have it. We're going to add $50 this week to our campground fund. Next up is car maintenance. Again, we have a vehicle. You have to pay to maintain that vehicle, so we like to sock a little bit of money away here and there so that if we have any car repairs that come up, we can handle that. So we're going to add $25 to our car maintenance fund. Next up is Christmas. There's that Christmas fund I talked about. And we are going to add $50 to our Christmas fund. We have a sinking fund for clothing to, purchase new clothing pieces as my family members need them. So we're going to add $50 to our clothing fund. Next up, we have household. So our grocery budget that we talked about covers our groceries, all of the food we need for the week. For a long time, I was also trying to use that grocery budget to pay for household items like toilet paper and paper towels and that sort of thing. And I was just finding that we weren't having to buy household items every week. So some weeks we were fine, but on the weeks then that we had a bunch of household items, we were going over our grocery budget, or I was trying to buy less food to make room for those household items. So I changed things up recently, and now we have a household items sinking fund, so we just add a little bit of money in there when we need to, and then we can buy the household items that we need. So we're adding $50 to our household budget. Next up is our home insurance. We live in a mobile home. We pay our home insurance just once a year, so we're going to put $100 into that sinking fund. Next up is school expenses. So this is basically anything that comes up that we have to pay for, just like it says, school expenses. If my son needs a new backpack, that would come out of school expenses. This is back to school clothing and supplies shopping in September before we go back to school. This also covers any after school activities. My son's on the track team, so if he were to need new track shoes, that would come out of school expenses. This is just like a big lump sum of money that we access when we need to buy anything related to school and after school activities. So we're going to add $50 to that fund. And lastly, we have a vacation fund. Yep, even though we are trying to pay down debt, we still do vacations. We're not like taking a cruise to the Caribbean or anything, you guys. This essentially is our camping trips that we take in the summer. As I mentioned, we have a camper. It's a little bit of a ways away, so this is like expenses for traveling to the camper and then food and fun while we're at the camper for the weekends and that sort of thing. So really this could be considered a camping fund, but we call it vacation. And we're going to add $50 to that. So that's it for our sinking funds this week. Sometimes we add a lot of money, sometimes we add just a little bit. Like I said, it all depends, but that's what we're adding this week. So we're going to add this up. 50 plus 25 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 100 plus 50 plus 50 for a total of $425 going into sinking funds this week. Next up, we have extra debt, and this is our debt snowball payment. So we use the debt snowball method to pay down all of our debts. We pay the minimum payments on all of our credit cards, and then extra money that we have goes towards just one card at a time. The card we are currently working on is a Lowe's card, so we're putting all of the extra money we can afford towards that card. This debt snowball payment that I put into my budget is the minimum amount that we will pay to that card this week. We like to make progress on paying off our debts every single week. So essentially this money is all of the minimum payments that we were paying on credit cards before we paid them off. As we have paid off each card, we add that minimum payment to our debt snowball, and it continues to build and build and build. Then we take that monthly amount that we were paying to all of those credit cards and we break it down. We divide it by 4 so that we can make progress every single week. And the amount that we are paying currently to the Lowe's card every single week is $233. Now, that's the minimum, like I said. So if we have any extra money left over in our cash envelopes, for example, at the end of the week, that money will typically go towards an additional debt snowball payment. Any extra money that we come across goes towards extra debt, but this $233 is the minimum amount that we will pay. We always hope that we'll be able to pay more than that, but that's the bare minimum. So for our extra debt total, it's $233. Lastly, I have my extra savings category. If you watched my Q1 savings video, we talked all about how much money I was able to save doing various savings challenges using this extra savings box here throughout the first quarter of the year. It was quite a hefty amount. It was something like $600 or so. And we took all of that money that we had been saving and we decided that we shouldn't really be focusing on extra savings at all while we still have debt to pay. So I took that $600 or whatever it was and I paid it right towards our Lowe's credit card. And moving forward, we are not going to be focusing on extra savings. I won't be doing any savings challenges. Trying to split my focus between saving for sinking funds and saving for extra savings and paying down debt, it was just stretching me too thin. So we're going back to focusing on just sinking funds and paying extra debt. However, under this extra savings category, I am going to put rollover. So as I mentioned, my husband is paid based on commission. His paychecks fluctuate a lot. Sometimes he brings in pretty small paychecks. Other times he brings in really large paychecks. So the way that we combat that and make sure that we always have enough money to get by is we roll money over week to week to week. It's not something I typically talk about here on my budget videos because I don't disclose how much we're rolling over. Because I don't disclose how much my husband is paid every week, we do a zero-based budget. So we give every single dollar that my husband brings in a job to do. If I wrote in how much we're going to roll over, it would be really, really easy then to just add up all of these various categories and figure out exactly how much my husband's paycheck was. So just to, protect my husband's privacy and keep that number private, I'm not going to write in how much we're rolling over. Just know that our income each week, the money that we are using to pay all of our categories here, includes my husband's paycheck plus whatever we have rolled over from the previous week. So I will have a rollover amount here from what we saved from the previous week, plus my husband's paycheck. That'll give us a total to do all of these things with, and then whatever we have left after we pay our bills, fund our cash envelopes and our sinking funds, and pay this extra debt payment, that amount will get rolled over till next week when we access it again to do next week's budget. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just not going to write that number in, like I said, for the sake of privacy. So that is a look at the budget for the week. This is where all of the money my husband earned this week is going to go, how we're going to handle it. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I post new budgeting and lifestyle content here on my channel pretty much every weekday. You're definitely going to want to come back for the cash envelope stuffing video for this week. I will go in and figure out how much cash I need to pull out of the bank for my cash envelopes and my sinking funds, and I will be stuffing those envelopes with you all, so you're definitely going to want to come back for that video. So I will see you all then. Bye, friends!